Right. I believe you can see my screen and then hear me as well. Today's session, we are going to focus on theory for grade 12 content, what is expected from you. And then we will also discuss few tips, how you should be prepared to face the theory questions. So before I start, I would like to know if you can hear my voice, and then you can also see my screen before I start the lesson. So you can indicate for me if you can see the screen and then also hear my voice as well. All right, so we are going to start. Now, before I start, I would like us to look at few tips, what you should know regarding the theory and how you should tackle theory questions. Right, now paper 2. We all know that the theory is always out of 150 marks. And then it has been demarcated as follows, whereby we have section A, so we have section A, that is multiple choice, which includes multiple choice. And then it also includes match columns. And then it also includes true or false. So that one will be total of, so the multiple choice is always 10 marks. And then the matching column is also 10 marks. Then the true or false will be 5 marks. Now, with the true or false, if it's false, you need to change the correct answer. So you have to take note of that. And then for section B, so section A, mostly the total will be 25 marks. And then section B, total is also 75 marks. Then section C, section C will be total of 50 marks. So this is the breakdown of the theory questions, whether June or final examination. Now, the section B comprises question 4, which is system technologies. Question 4, which will be system technologies. And then question 5 will be network and internet technologies. So question 5 is mostly 15 marks. And then question 4 will be 25 marks. We will look at what constitutes each of these questions. And then question 6. Question 6 mostly will be, let me check here, question 6. Mostly will be information management. That is question number 6. mostly PET, information management, and then it will also be out of 10 marks. Then question 7. Question 7 is also social implications. Social implications, which will be 10 marks. So in most cases, the social implications together with the network constitute 25 marks. And then also the system technologies, 25. So I'm giving it 50. Then the question 6, information management together with question 8, which is solution development, which constitute 15 marks. So the question 6, information management, which is mostly practical PET. So PET questions are always 10 marks. And then questions related to practicals, which is also 15 marks. So these two will give you 25, system technologies 25, and the network and social implications also giving you 25. So section B will give you in total out of 75 marks. Right. And then the scenarios, integrated scenarios, will be both question 9 and 10. So the integrated scenarios which is question 9 and 10. Right. So that one will be combination of system technologies, network, information management, and solution development. So this one, we combine all the aspects of the theory, starting from system technology, but most of them will be from system technologies. So this is the breakdown of the structure of the theory content. Now, the tips: stick to the scenario, especially question 9 and 10. When there is a scenario, you must stick to that. Always try to relate your question to the scenario provided. If you are unsure, you must still answer based on the knowledge, on your knowledge. If you are not sure of it, you pick based on your knowledge. Read carefully, read each question to the end twice if needed to avoid missing key instructions. You must read the question very well. Never leave a question blank. Don't leave any question blank, more especially the multiple choice. You find learners leaving them blank. Please don't do that. Follow the paper's order. Answer questions in the order that they appear. But, you know, in most cases, you are not restricted. You can answer any question, but it is advisable to start with question 1, 2, and 3, please. Answer all parts of a question. If a question has 2 parts, that's name and explain, you must first stick to the name, and then after that, you stick to the explain. Don't just name and then you leave the explanation part. Otherwise, you won't get the full mark. Right. Or maybe define, and another example is define and give an example. Make sure that you give the definition, and then after that, you give the example that the question requires. Use the mark very well. Like 1 mark is equal to 1 fact. So yes and no answer do not count without explanation. So if, let's say, there's a question that requires you to just choose either yes or no, after giving the yes or no, you need to explain it as well. Don't just say yes I'm talking about it from question 4 going to the last question. You must explain it. 1 mark is for 1 fact. So if you say about 2 marks, it means that you must provide 2 facts for that. Now, watch for not questions. Like not means opposite. So you must read carefully. Then you must explain your answers. Don't just give a 1-word answer. Avoid 1-word answers. You must explain. For example, you find learners saying it's cheaper. You don't just say cheaper without explaining. So when you say cheaper, you need to explain why it is cheaper. You need to do that. Avoid vague terms like better, cheaper, and then faster. You must avoid that as well. And then always give a reason. Give a reason that will help the marker to understand whatever that you are trying to explain. All questions, choose one option, give a reason for your choice, and explain why you did not choose the other. So if you do not choose that option, you can even explain why you didn't choose that. Then match answers length to marks. Don't write a paragraph for 1 mark or 1 sentence for 5 marks. You must expand where necessary. Now follow command verbs. Verbs like describe means like full explanation, not just keywords. You must explain it. So if you get a question that says describe, you need to explain it further. Right. But if you say define, you can give the keyword and then you give the function. You must write properly and then you think of the marker. You must think that the marker does not know anything about computer or CAT. So you have to try to convince the marker very well when you are answering the theory questions. Stay on the topic or the terminology. If the question is talking about something related to computer or hardware, you must stick to it. If it is talking about the software, also stick to that. Number your questions properly and then help the marker so that the marker will also help you. So basically, these are the tips of answering theory questions. Now, let's go to the topics that you need to know regarding term 1 before I give you an outline or what you should be expecting for your June examination. Right, then after that, we will try to solve questions. I shared a question with you that you need to answer them as well. Right. So I will start with the topics. What is expected? Now, you can see that the system technologies, which involves question 4, 9, and 10, talks about the following. 1, the types of computer systems. Now, in term 1, we discussed the types of computer systems as SOHO, power users, personal, mobile user, and enterprise users. You need to know what each definition is, and then the devices and softwares needed for each user. For instance, the SOHO, that's a small office, home office. Someone who needs devices at a small office or at home. Now, the softwares needed will be Microsoft Office because the person is using it for his or her home. And then the computers needed is just entry-level computers, basic level. In other words, you don't need a high specification. Then we also have the power user, someone who needs a high-powered computers, like the gamers, and then others. So those people are the power users. So they need a high specification. And then the mobile user and enterprise users. So you have to talk about that. You must know them. When you are defining it, state what that type of user is, and then you mention one function of it. So that's how we must also stick to that when you are defining something. Then again, you must also know the difference between data and then information. Then you must also note knowledge and conclusion, definition, and then the scenario example. And then reasons why we use computers or ICT, like the time-saving communication and global connectivity. The main reason why we use ICT or computers. We use computers for various reasons, so you have to know these reasons. So this is about the general concept which falls under the system technologies. Right. Then the second one is also talking about the hardware. Now, when we talk about hardware, which is also part of the system technologies, we mean you must know convergence. That is combining multiple technologies into one device. Example, a smartphone. And then information processing cycle, beginning from input, processing, storage, output, and communication. You need to know the definition for each phase. That is input stage, whereby the computer accepts data. Processing, whereby the computer analyze or interpret the data. And then the storage is keeping or saving the files or data. And then the output is displaying the results. Then communication, that is sharing of the information. So you must know these definitions and then example of each stage. Then the integration of input mode to enhance productivity. That is whereby two or more input devices are combined in one system to enhance productivity. A typical example is point of sales. If you take point of sales, POS, like ShopRite, they have the barcode system, they have keyboard and touchscreen, which is all input mode. Now, when these systems are put together, so that when one of them fails, the other one will be there. So you can see that when you go to Pick and Pay, and then they try to scan the barcode and it doesn't work, what they do is they key in or they enter the information from the barcode, right? So now you must know this integration of input mode to enhance productivity and example as well. Then still under hardware, you need to know about making buying decisions. Now, when you are making buying decisions, we have different ways, like the keyboard and mouse. When you are buying keyboard and mouse, what are some of the factors you must consider? For instance, you need to consider the ergonomics. You need to also consider whether it's wireless or cable when you are buying keyboard or mouse. Now, we should also know comparing wireless keyboard or mouse with a cable keyboard or mouse, their advantages and disadvantages. So when you are comparing, you must know their advantages and disadvantages. Right. So when you are buying keyboard, these are the things you should take into consideration. Now, also making buying decision, you must consider digital camera and webcam. What factors do you have to consider? For instance, by considering the resolution, the lens, the cost, and then the other factors. So you have to consider them. Then when you're buying a scanner, what factors do you have to consider? That is, you need to consider the DPI, which is resolution, the OCR, optical character recognition, which convert a scan document into editable text. And then you must consider the speed as well. Then when you are buying monitor, what factors do you have to consider? Resolution, size, refresh rate. You must also consider aspect ratio. And then you must also consider contrast ratio. Right, so you need to know this. They can ask you questions on these factors to consider when you're buying each of these. Right, then a printer. When you're buying a printer as well, what factor do you have to consider when you're buying a printer? Right, you need to consider the type of printer, whether it's inkjet or laser. multifunction. You need to also consider the resolution, the speed, the paper size, and the rest. So you have to consider these when you are buying printers. So these are the decision-making factors that one needs to consider as grade 12 learner. These are the things that you covered in term 1. You need to know this. Then again, voice and then speech recognition. You must know the difference. What is voice recognition and what is speech recognition? You need to also know their advantages and disadvantages. Now, the voice recognition mostly identifies a unique voice, mostly for biometric or security reasons. So then the speech recognition only identifies the spoken words. So the difference is that the voice recognition identifies, it's a feature that identifies a unique voice for security. For example, for biometric. But then when it comes to the speech recognition, this one only identifies the speech recognition identifies the spoken words. So the speech recognition can be mostly for people who want to search for something, or accessibility features, those who want to use to say something then convert to text. So these are the speech recognition, but the voice mostly for a unique voice. Now, the advantages and disadvantages, you must know them. The notes will be shared again so that you will know them. Their advantages and disadvantages. Disadvantages, for instance, if you lose your voice, let's say through flu, it will not be able to identify it. So you must know some of these things. And then the storage devices. The storage devices like HDD and SSD, you must know the difference between HDD, hard disk drive, and then the solid state drive. Now, hard disk drive, you must know how to compare the two. Hard SSD is faster and is costly, that is expensive as compared to HDD. The noise level of SSD is low, and then the power consumption of SSD also is better than HDD. So you must know how to compare these two. Then backup versus archive. So backup is making copies, and archive is a static, mostly for future use, but a backup mostly for temporary in case there is an emergency or you accidentally delete it, then you can go for that file. Now, how do you make backup? Through cloud storage or through external devices and others. Then you must also know the difference between cloud storage and cloud computing, as well as the great computing. Now, the cloud computing, storing of files on the internet. Cloud storage, storing of files on the internet. Cloud computing, making use of computing services through internet. For example, using softwares like Office 365 online, or saving your work. So in other words, cloud storage is an example of cloud computing. It is part of the cloud computing. And then the great computing is sharing of resources. That's the hardware resources in order to solve a specific problem. So mostly another word for great computing, distributed computing. So you must know how to compare these three and their definitions. Now, the processing devices, example CPU, RAM, GPU, graphic processing unit, and motherboard. You must know their specifications and why do we need high specification of CPU, RAM, and others. So you need to know this for the scenario based. Now, risk with input devices. When you are using input devices, what are some of the risks you might encounter? For example, CTS, carpal tunnel syndrome, RSI, repetitive syndrome also. And then we also have keyloggers, how to prevent keyloggers, repetitive strain injury, and then the keyloggers. Now, you must know some of these risks. Keylogger is a type of software that will record your keystrokes, and then RSI, when you use input devices, you are going to encounter the pains or the strain on your repetitive side. Now, so some of these you must know, and then the preventive measures also. Then you must know the specification for different users, matching them input, output, storage, and others. So you must know, like for instance, Soho, what are the specifications, the input device for Soho, what are the output devices for Soho, and what are the storage devices for Soho. Now you need to know this. Example, the power user like a gamer or somebody who's like an engineer or photographer, they will need more processing devices like GPU, they need more RAM, and they need input devices like maybe joysticks and others. So you need to compare each user and what kind of devices that they need. And then troubleshooting, they can ask you questions on troubleshooting. That's sticky mouse. How do you resolve sticky mouse? Scanning issue. When you are scanning a document and it doesn't display properly, what might be the problem and how do you resolve that? Printing problems. When you are printing and then maybe it doesn't print, what should you do? How do you resolve that? Disk errors. If your internal storage is not working, and then the task manager, when the files, you have so many files that are frozen, and then how do you close non-responsive files, apps, by using the file manager, and then defragmentation, that is reorganizing, rearranging scattered files in order to speed up. So rearranging these scattered files to speed up the computer, and that is what we call defragmentation. Right, so you must know this one, disk cleanup and other, that's deleting unused apps or files in order to get more space or to freeze up more space. And that's what we call disk clean up. Right. So you must know how to compare these, how to troubleshoot them. Questions might also come from that. And then green computing, that is saving paper and other green computing measures. That is being eco-friendly. When you are using the computers and then you become eco-friendly. So you must know that as well. Now, essential or basic hardware component. What are the essential or basic hardware component? Example is the CPU, RAM, storage, or the GPU. What are the internal essential components that are needed? So these are the essential components. All these are hardware. So you must take note of the hardware issues, what needs to be done. And then we have the software issues as well. Now, when it comes to the software issues, You must know types of software. That's application software versus system software. The application software performing a specific task. System software, a software that manage or control the activities of the computer. Now, you must know the definition or comparing these two. Then you must also know the difference between web-based applications and installed applications. What are the web-based applications and what are the installed applications? In other words, what applications are kept on the computer and what applications are only accessed through internet. You need to know them. Right. Now, the installed applications are kept on the local device. Example is Microsoft Word installed on your computer, and then the web-based access through the internet. Now, the system requirements, you must know that as well. We have the minimum versus the recommended system requirements. Then the minimum requirement is the minimum specification needed for applications or any game to run properly. And then the recommended one is the optimal specifications needed for a software or application to run smoothly. So this one, the minimum one, the application might work, but if you want it to run smoothly, then we call it the recommended system requirement. So these are the two requirements that you must know. Then also software problems, upgrades, and then updates. Then you must also know bugs, patch, service pack, read only, and then the upgrades. Now, when you talk about the bug is the software errors that comes when they are creating the software, and then the patches are the updates that are needed to fix bugs. Then we have service pack, which involves series of patches or series of updates that are put together, and then also trial versus beta versions, software license, and then Creative Commons, UCD, user-centered designs. You must know them as well. The role and functions of operating systems, types of metadata, which is the file properties, and then the utility software for troubleshooting. Then again, performance of factors that affect the overall performance of the computer, and add-ons. You must know add-ons as well. So basically, as grade 12 learners, this is what is expected from you regarding system technologies that you must know. Right. I will check if you have any question you may ask, and then after that, I will move to the network technologies. Right. Yeah, somebody is saying document. Okay. I'm going to send this document right now, or immediately after the lesson, I will send it as well. And then the notes, I will send them so that you have access to them. Right. So if you have any question, don't forget to drop the questions there, and then I'm going to answer your questions. If you have any question, you may ask the question, then I will answer your questions as well. Right. If there's no question, then let me proceed to the network, and then I'll come back to you. Now, I move straight to the next one, which is the network. Like I said, the network covers 25 marks. No, sorry, 15 marks. Now, the network for grade 12, examiners mainly focus on this. The types of networks, which is the LAN, WAN, wireless LAN, and GAN. In few instances that they will ask questions about personal area network. Most of the questions will be centered around this type of network. The definition, the advantages and disadvantages, like LAN. a type of network in a small geographical area. When a type of network that covers a large area. Wireless LAN, which is a type of local area network that connects wirelessly. So here they connect wirelessly. And then GAN, which is the global type of network. Remember, GAN is an example of when. GAN is an example of when. You must know the advantages of this network. For example, easier communication, sharing of files and hardware. At least you should be able to remember this. If they ask you about the advantages of having a network, easier communication, sharing files and hardware, or you can say centralized storage, that is to store files. At least these three you must know. Like I said earlier, you must always know the definition with a keyword and advantages and disadvantages. Then the disadvantages of network. First thing that you must think about the security threat, or you can say security issues. Whenever they ask questions about disadvantage of something that involves network, you just say security issues or security threats. Don't mention hacking or what. Just say security issues. And also expensive to what? Set up, especially network, expensive to set up and other. There are so many disadvantages that I've talked about earlier. You get them from the notes also. You must also know internet services. What services are available when you use internet? Example is the VoIP, voice over internet protocol, which is Skype. And then we also have example like Teams, Zoom, like what we have been using now, to be able to connect to people through network, and then you join so many people so that you can have voice and video calls as well. Instant messaging. A typical example is WhatsApp. A typical example is WhatsApp, whereby instant message is a text-based, whereby you send messages, then the person will receive instantly. Now, remember, WhatsApp is not example of VoIP. But if you want to add WhatsApp as example of VoIP, you must say WhatsApp calling or WhatsApp video calling. So these are features in WhatsApp that allow VoIP things to be done. So take note, but then WhatsApp originally was made as a text-based, so it's instant messaging. Then the file transfer protocol, transfer of files over internet, FTP. Now sending a large file through the internet. Then we have the cloud computing, doing computing services over internet, and then the great computing. So these services are available online. So I gave the definitions and examples here. You must know the definition, and also you must know at least two advantages and two disadvantages. So here cheaper calls, and then also the softwares are mostly free. You can reach so many people at the same time. Now, the disadvantages are that it consumes a lot of what? Data, especially when it's video call and others. You must know instant messaging. You must know the definition and the advantages and disadvantages as well. Now, the cloud and great computing, you should be able to compare these two, their advantages and disadvantages. The great computing and cloud computing, like convenience, storage, a lot of storage, remote access. Disadvantages are that you need to have internet access and then security issues as well. Now, e-government, in other words, the government internet services like SARS, IEC, SABC, Home Affairs, things, and then also paying traffic funds, fines and others. All the services available by government, whereby people can easily get access to government information, and we call it the government. Now, they can ask you a question about the advantages and disadvantages. Advantages like convenience, you can access them anytime, anywhere, saves time as well. Instead of you to go and join a long queue, it saves time. And then the disadvantages are that it needs a fast internet, security risk, and digital divide. There are some people where they stay, they don't have access to internet or technology, and that is the problem with the government internet services. So the pros and cons here are the advantages and disadvantages. Then when you talk about the digital divide, like I said, is the gap between those with and those who do not have technology access. That's the simple definition of digital divide. Then internet connections, wired connection like ADSL, SDSL, and fiber optics. So these ones make use of internet connections. Fiber optics use fiber cables. ADSL and SDSL, they use telephone lines. So these two, they use telephone lines. So it's a type of internet connectivity that use telephone lines, and these ones use fiber cable. Then SDSL, in that situation, the upload speed and download speed are the same, but ADSL, the download speed is faster than upload speed. Right, so you need to know them as well. Now, we must also know what ADSL is and what SDSL is. You have to know them, how to compare these two. Right. And then, like I said here, ADSL, the download speed is faster than upload speed. Example, when you have the download speed to be 50 megabit per second, the upload speed will be half of it, which is 25 megabit per second, the maximum one. Then SDSL, they have the same download and upload speed. Example, if your ISP says they are giving you 50 megabit per second, the download speed will be 50, the maximum limit, and then the upload speed will also be 50. Then you must know the advantages and disadvantages of these two. ADSL, their advantages includes Wi-Fi, and they use landline. Also, you can use it to make calls, telephone calls. Right. They include Wi-Fi, but then their disadvantages are that they might not be in your area, and then rural areas also can be weaker. Right. So you have to take note of this. At least you must know two. Then the network devices. You should know how to compare these devices. Now, a modem, sometimes we call it dongle also. It's a type of device, or you can say it's a network device that connects computers to internet. Now, if you have one computer, then you want to connect it to an internet, you need a modem or a dongle. But a router is a device that connects networks or LANs together. So when you have two or more local area networks and you want to put them together, you need a router. But a switch connects computers together in a network. So you must know these three devices, how to differentiate between them. And then we also have web, wireless access point. And then you must also know NIC, network interface controller. So this is a hardware device that allows computers to be connected to a network. So the NIC is part of the computer, which is embedded, some of them embedded into the motherboard, and allow you to connect computers to a network. So when you are defining, the first keyword is hardware. Just like this ones here, you must say hardware. Always, keyword is very important. or you can say a device that connects networks together. So you can say hardware, you can say device, which connects computers together. So first of all, anytime you are defining these things, you must mention one, what category does it belong to? Does it belong to hardware or device or software or malware before you mention the function? So this is the hardware. What does it do? They allow computers to be connected to network. So these are the keywords that you need to emphasize when you are defining it. Wireless access point is also a device. It's a device which allows computers or computing devices to be connected to internet or network wirelessly. So they allow devices to be connected wirelessly. It is the one that allow these Wi-Fi things to work. So that's the access point. We call it the web. You must know it also as well. Right. These are the network devices that you must know as grade 11 learners, grade 12 learners. You need to know these. Now, we move on to the next one, which is the broadband and bandwidth. You must know how to compare these two. Broadband is a high-speed permanent internet connectivity. These are keywords. You cannot leave any of them. High-speed permanent internet connectivity. An example is fiber, LTE, ADSL, SDSL, and the rest. So all these are type of internet connectivity, which is having a higher speed, and then we call broadband. But then the bandwidth is data flow capacity, or you can say amount of data that travels from one point to another. So that's the bandwidth. And then mostly we measure it in megabit per second or gigabit per second. So this is the amount of data that travels, and then the broadband is a type of internet connectivity. Now, ISP considerations, factors that you must consider when you are choosing an ISP. You must choose the capped or uncapped. You must know what is capped, what's uncapped, what is the services that they provide. So you must know the services that they provide, all these with the services they provide. You must consider that. And then, so all these are one. Sometimes the memo pick these ones as one. And then again, you must also consider the area or the coverage area or the distance from the tower or access point. You must also consider, of course, the cost. You must consider the cost and then the services that they provide. Right. So all these are some of the factors that you must consider, whether they are in your area, the distances, and then the cost, and then the services that they provide. These are the factors you must consider when you choose an ISP. So ISP, they give you at a monthly fee like Vodacom, like MWeb, like MTN, and the rest. So there are so many ISPs, and then the notes that I shared, you get them more information there. You must know what is capped and what is uncapped. When you say capped is limited data. Capped is limited data over a period of time. Now, and then uncapped is limited data over a period, mostly 1 month, unlimited data. You must know this. Then hard capped is whereby the ISP stops all services completely when your cap is used up. Or in other words, when your cap is reached, they stop all the services. And here, some services remain when your cap is reached. So when you finish your cap, and then you can use certain services like Facebook free and others. And that's the soft cap. You must know comparing these two. You should also know comparing shape and versus unshape. Shape is some services are slower than others. And then unshape equals speed for all services. So unshape, all the services are having the same speed, whether you are streaming or you are using emails or you are using voice over internet protocol, the speed becomes the same. That is what we call the unshape. You must also know ISP services. What services do they provide? They provide you with emails. They give you spam filtering. They also give internet connections and others. So at least you must know these 2 or 3. Then the difference between download and upload. Download is data from the internet, and then upload data to the internet. So data to the internet from your device. And then data from the internet to local device. That's the difference between download and upload. Now, you must also know streaming. What is streaming? Streaming, that is basically you are live. You are live. You don't get the data. The data is being transmitted live without downloading. So that's what called the streaming. You must know that also. Now, the difference between coverage and wireless access point. So the coverage is the area signal that is available, and then the access point is the device, which makes you be able to have the coverage. Then the telecommuting, working from home using the internet. And then throttling also, whereby the ISP slows down your speed after data usage. Then we also have distributed or grid computing, like I explained earlier. And then we also have the fair internet usage, and then IoT, Internet of Things. Right. So the IoT is whereby the devices like smartphones and fridges are connected to the internet. So you must know this also as well. Then the social implication, like I indicated earlier, social implication has 10 marks. That's the social issues, the negative side of using technology. Now, grade 10, grade 12, we talk about the right to access information and right to privacy. That is the right to individual to have a fair and equal access to digital resource and internet. And then the right to privacy, that is right to keep your personal information secured and protected. Now, you must know the internet attacks, but remember these rights, some of them can be revoked. For instance, right to privacy can be revoked whereby you commit a crime, and then these agencies, the security agencies, has to check your personal information. Then the internet attacks, their aim is to disrupt or harm computers or network. An example is the DOS, which is the denial of service, or distributed denial of service attack. They bombard your system or your network with data to slow down or crash your computer. Then we have the sniffer attack. They read data packets that are being sent to the computer or internet. That's what the sniffer attack they do. Whatever information or whatever that you send through the internet, they read them, and then they'll be able to attack your system. Then the malware, which is the malicious software. Example is the botnet, the zombie, the ransomware. You must know their definition. Ransomware is a malware. When you are defining, you must start by saying malware. What does it do? That encrypt or block access to your files, and then they demand payment. Then the bot is a program that performs automated tasks online. And then the botnet, a group of bots controlled by attackers remotely. So the difference between bot and then botnet and zombie is that the zombie is one device. So infected device, in other words, just one device. But then the botnet is a group of devices. Then you should know social engineering. That is an attempt to trick people to reveal sensitive information. Example of social engineering are phishing, using fake emails to request somebody's sensitive information. Then we have farming, using fake website or link to deceive someone into getting sensitive info. And then we have clickjacking, using a concealed link or a hidden link to deceive someone. And then smishing, using deceived SMS messages, deceptive SMS messaging, baiting, to deceive someone, to lure someone's curiosity to click or open a thread. Pretexting, using a fake identity to gain an information. And spoofing, when you forge somebody's email header to mislead another person. And the computer crimes, theft of hardware, theft of software, and then others. You need to know all these as well. Then protecting hardware, protecting software, like chaining, using cabinet, security doors, alarm system, bolts, and then biometrics. And then the software theft, how do you protect them, like piracy and others? Then you must know all these, the hoax, the scam, adware, and all these. So the grade 12, you must know this for 10 marks. That is question number 7. You must know all this. And then the next one is information management. Information management only talks about pets. So if you did the pet properly, you should be able to answer these questions. So like I said, information management is just 10 marks. And then you must know the pet information management, how to evaluate website like authority, checking the credibility of the source, currency, whether the information is updated, accuracy, the correct and factual info, objectivity, bias-free and balanced information, electronic forms, the advantages and disadvantages. Please, they like asking this type of questions. What are the advantages of having these electronic forms or online survey? Like quick response, easier distribution, and cost effective. You must know at least 2. The disadvantages, which involves it needs internet connectivity, potential for dishonest responses, as well as the digital divide. Not everybody has access to internet. So you must know that as well. Then still under the information management, they can ask you to compare phase 2, which is the spreadsheet and database, their strength and limitations in terms of analyzing data. Remember, spreadsheet has a vast amount of functions, and database also has queries. You must be able to mention them. Now, closed and open-ended questions, comparing them. Task definition, that's defining the clear or understanding of the problem. What does task definition involves? They can ask you that question. Report writing, what does it involve? And then also, how do you avoid plagiarism? Then also software to check plagiarism and others, and then how to ensure accuracy of data capture, like for instance, validation rule and input mask. You must know all these. So basically, the information management involves these type of questions. And then there's solution development. for solution development, it's only going to be about the practical questions. And then I got some information for you also. Those of you who like practicals, the questions are mostly from the solution development, which involves spreadsheet, Microsoft Word, database, and HTML. So they can ask various type of questions, like example, using these softwares, Excel, Word, and then database, the tools and shortcut, Excel, the error detections, conditional formatting, filtering, database, like basics, the table, the query, the primary key validation rule, and Microsoft Word, for example, mail merge. How do we use mail merge? And what are the sources of data for mail merge? Styles, what do you need for a style? Table of content, and others. So basically, this is the structure of the paper. And the question 5 and the questions 9 and 10, like I said, out of 50 marks will only be integrated scenario. They will pick it from the topics that we have discussed already. Comparing, having an advert, then you compare them. So this is the structure of your paper. Now, let's take a look at this, and I'm going to share this as well with you. The breakdown of the questions. Question 1, or question 4, which is the system technologies, CPU and others, comparing them, open source versus proprietary software, utility softwares, defragmentation, like I said earlier, advantages and disadvantages of input and output devices, biometric, what's biometric? Biometric devices, advantages and disadvantages, SSD over HDD types of users, and then question 5, like World Wide Web comparing with internet, which is the global internet, with the global or the largest network, intranet and extranet. Like intranet is internal organizations network, extranet also organizations network that can be accessed by external people, by public. So extranet can be accessed by public, certain information. Like if you take Capitec Bank, certain information can be accessed by public, but then it's internal organization network. But here only accessed by employees. If you are not an employee, you cannot get the information from intranet. But extranet, certain information can be accessed by public. You must know how to differentiate between these two. And like I said, network device, router, switch, modem, NIC, and web, the role and purposes, ADSL and others, bandwidth, cap, and throttling, internet safety, HTTPS, secured password, that's the cyber security, geotagging, URL shortener, cloud storage, and others. Then also the task definition, what should be there in the task definition, online storage, pie chart like spreadsheet, interpreting and analyzing data, referencing, avoiding plagiarism, and also ethical use of ICT and digital platform, digital footprint, the footprint that gathers for you for a particular person, online identity, cyberbullying, awareness and consequences, electronic waste management, green computing or energy saving, ICT policy in schools, and the fishing and farming as well. Right. So basically, this is what is expected from you. These two documents, I will share them with you. Then you go through them together with the notes as well. So if you have any question, you may ask. Like I said, any definition, you must know it. And then you should also know their advantages and disadvantages. And when you are defining something, categorize before, like it's a hardware and then you state the function. Make it simple like that. Like if you're defining a virus is a malware. That's the first keyword. And then you state what does it do? That disrupt the normal function of a computer. So this is also part of the definition. So you start by saying what is it and then what does it do? So that's the actual way of defining something. You must categorize and then you state what it does. Like for instance, phishing. Phishing is a social engineering that deceives people into getting sensitive information through email. So that's how we define things, and then you must know their advantages and disadvantages with all your definition, right? So if you have any question, you can share with me and then I will ask or I'll answer your question. Like somebody said, examples of great computing. Very good. Great computing, like we said, is whereby multiple systems or hardware are put together to share or in order to solve a single problem. For instance, weather forecast, they normally use that one by having different servers at different place, and then their hardware are put together through network. Then they'll be able to solve a single problem. Maybe there's an issue that they need to do, and one computer is having a low specification, so the others will assist, and then they'll be able to solve that problem. So in other words, the great computing assist and utilize resources. So the resources that are not being utilized will now be used to solve a problem. So mostly big companies are using them to solve their problems. Weather forecast, also scientific analysis or calculations, they use the great computing to solve those kind of problems. Right. Somebody says, should we also know the function advantage, disadvantage? Yes. For the network device, you must know the definitions and functions. That's all. Their advantages and disadvantages, you don't need to know them. So you know the role or the functions and then their definition as well. Where am I going to share it? I'm going to share it right now through the WhatsApp group and all the various groups so that other educators can also share it with their learners. So I will share them through SirAntwi WhatsApp group. And the question that I gave you, like I sent you the memo as well. So check the way I answered the memo, and then you also try to solve these questions yourself. Right. If there is no question, I'll end the lesson here, and then you can watch and then also go through this document and prepare yourself well. If there's anything that comes across, don't forget to ask the question through this video, or you can ask any platform and then I'll answer your question. Thank you for your precious time.